Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Our letter, our advice section that we did very recently on the lady that had been unfaithful to her husband and was fearful that the baby that apparently she conceived when she had a one-night stand with her ex, who she said was the love of her life, and they had met for closure. I think that it was an opening, not a closing. But anyway, not to get into judging that, things happen, and they happen for a reason. And who knows what the reason will be. Something will unfold. Life unfolds, I find, and it unfolds whether you like it or not in the way that things will come together. Now, so how this also coincides with another subscriber who said, how can I deal with temptation? And if you think about temptation, and if you think about someone who actually succumbs to temptation, they've placed themselves in a situation where it's difficult to say no. Now, I always think it's easiest to say no the sooner that you can get to that point. So what would, in the case of someone seeking closure and meeting, in the case of the lady that wrote, she met, it was an illicit thing. It was a thing that should never have happened, in fact, because you place yourself next to the cliff top and you can fall over. There's no guardrail in situations like this. So it's important to know that there is such a thing. If it's not a law, it should be, but it's the law of the wedge, what I call the wedge. You could also call it the staircase theory, you could call it the gradient, but it's that things don't suddenly switch on. They start slow and they gain speed. The longer that you stay on that track, then that's where it starts to get heavy. So let's imagine for a little moment that we're looking at what happened with that particular situation. Let's not make it that lady, but let's say that you're in a situation where you have split from someone, you're parted, you're no longer together, and you have or have not a new relationship. Now, some people actually are very open about the idea that you can have a closure conversation, and they even tell their present partner that, listen, I really want to meet and just get this out of the way so that it's closed and we're not going to... And the partner who is being consulted may say, okay, that's okay, I can have that. I've heard of cases where many years later an ex has showed up and said, I'd just like to have coffee, and the present husband or wife has said, okay, that's fine, as long as we both know where that's going to go, or more importantly, where it's not going to go. Personally, I see no reason to meet with an ex in order to close it. Here's what I think of as a closure conversation. Hello? Ah, it's you. Long time no see, or long time haven't heard from you since we split. So, how are things going? That's good. Yes. Meet? For what reason would we meet? For closure. Well, if you need closure, here it is. We're done. We're finished. We're not together anymore. You made your choices, I made mine, and we split. Did you understand that? Okay. Do I want to meet? No. I'm very happy at the moment. I have a partner who is loyal, faithful, true, and I don't think that that would be a good idea for him to think that I want to meet you. It didn't work with you, so fine, this is goodbye. The goodbye was a long time ago, but if you need it again, go in peace. I wish you well. Thank you for calling, and goodbye. Click. Closure. Now, if you do it the other way, what happens? Oh, hi. Yes, I remember that was our favourite tune. And it's playing. And you're listening. And it's about the old days. I can't make you love me if you won't. Oh yes, I remember that tune. Yes, yes, yes. We've already passed the point that we should have said no. We should have said, yeah, it's just a tune now. Okay, closed, bye. But we didn't. We listened to the tune. And then as the tune goes by, we remember the old days. Yes, we had some wonderful times, didn't we? Yes, I remember down at the beach that time. And when we walked in the mountains, wasn't it wonderful? Yes, and wasn't that sunset marvellous? Yes. Yes, it would be nice to see you, but of course you know that it's not going anywhere, don't you? You do. But you'd still like to meet. I hate to offend you. I don't want to be rude. Listening to all the reasons why you should meet. And the further it goes, the harder it is to say no. So, okay, well, no, I don't think I had better tell my husband, my wife, that we're going to meet. I mean, after all, it's just meeting just to talk and have a coffee, isn't it? Yes, of course it is. Now, guess what? You're in the boat. So, you meet. It's already past the point of an easy no. So now you've got to deal with the fact that you have a person in front of you who is having difficulty forgetting you. That's why he or she called. Probably they're going through some kind of crisis. There was the one-legged man crisis very recently where the man turned up and not intending to make this into a fun pun, but he was trying to use the lady as a crutch. He'd lost his leg. Things were finding, he was finding that life was a little bit more difficult without one of his legs. So he came back on the scene. And he came back on the scene via the sun. This is the link. Difficult to say no to someone that you really love. And the lady adored her son. And the son was saying, Mom, can't we be a family again together? We passed the point of the thin end of the wedge. Here's a wedge shape. This is the shape of a wedge. This end is the thin end. That's where you can drive that wedge in between something and it will have to open like that. That's where the no becomes increasingly difficult to say, to announce, to pronounce, to speak. So then you're into this situation of where, well, I'm trying to be reasonable. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. And all of this comes because you didn't, in a good old English way, you didn't knock it on the head straight away. That's what you should have done. Now, how does this work in general? When you are in a job, let's suppose you're in a job which is a public service job, maybe you're serving as a salesperson in a particular place and you're there every day. You're a captive audience for anybody who takes a shine to you. So let's say that the guy sees you and there you are and you're working on the makeup counter in a big store, and every day you go in, and because you're on the beauty department, your uniform is especially attractive. You look great, let's face it. And it's makeup, so you're made up and you look beautiful. And somebody passes, and nice looking guy, and he looks over, eye to eye contact, and he smiles, and you smile back. Why would you not? It's your job to be nice to people. You're not going to sell him much makeup, but you're going to be nice to him. So he sees the smile, and he interprets it as the thin end of the wedge. The next day he passes purely by accident, and he smiles. But this time he says, "Hi." And of course, what do? You say hi. It's your job to be nice to people. So this happens a couple of times. Now, on both sides, something starts to happen. Something, the thin end of the wedge. Something starts to happen. Let's face it, he's a good-looking guy. Now, on his side, he starts to dress a little better. On your side, you're a little more careful with your makeup. And you make sure, well, you've noticed that he passes usually every morning around 11:30. So you make sure that you're on duty at 11:30. Because it's nice to feel that someone is passing and says hi, and smiles, and is good looking, and is beautiful, and so on. So this goes on, and then finally, eventually I should say, he will stop. This is part of his plan. It's not accidental, okay? If I'm talking to the woman now, it's not accidental. He's looking better. He's wearing a much nicer sweater these days, and he's just had his hair done. It's not by accident. And then he stops and says, "You know, I was thinking that I should buy some makeup for my girlfriend, or for my mum, or my sister." Right? What? I don't know what. I mean, I'm a guy, so I don't know about these things, you know. And you are only too happy to show him everything that he needs to know. So he says, "Well, maybe I'll call in again when I've got more time. You know, I'm not wasting your time, am I?" And you say, "Oh, of course not. It's my job." Can you see how it escalates? It's like my little theory of the escalator. The escalator should be either moving up or moving down. And that is the dynamic of an escalator. It moves up or it moves down. Now, you're on an escalator and you're moving up. This is the gradient. This is the gradual approach. This is the easy does it. And you are now making little concessions in your life which are totally innocent, totally meaningless, and you're just paying a little bit more attention to your eyeshadow or your lipstick, or making sure that you are dressed beautifully. And it's all an innocent little flirtation. And then he will find out, she will find out, where you have lunch. How will they do that? Well, at lunchtime, he will have said, "What time do you go for lunch?" 12 o'clock, okay. And he stores that away in his Predator book, because he's going to watch on 12 o'clock where you go. And he will follow you discreetly, she will follow you discreetly. This is all a possible scenario. I'm not suggesting that this is how your mother and father met, okay? But it will evolve. This life of this little flirtation will unfold. And unless you have turned the switch and stop that smile from becoming anything more, it will unfold and it will progress, and you will be on the escalator going up. Going up to where? Well, that depends how clever he or she is as the predator in this little scenario. But it will happen. And now it would be difficult because you've had these little conversations where he passes at 11:30 every day and you make sure you're there. And you have these little conversations. Guess what? It's innocent, because what do you always talk about? Well, you always talk about your husband or your wife. Why? Because the predator makes sure that you do. So what does your husband do? Or what does your wife do? Wow, I bet that's great. And yeah, wow, that's just terrific. Oh, she does that? Wow, that's really good. So you, isn't it difficult to have a kind of a relationship where you're both working such long hours, and hey, you have to go to lunch every day at 12, and what, you sit there on your own? Oh no, you sometimes go with a workmate. Okay, but sometimes not. Yes, store it in the predator case file. Now, if ever this is someone who probably realizes that you have a close relationship with your husband or wife and will not seek to ask or invite you to lunch, how will it happen? Oh gosh, you come here for lunch? So do I. Wow, is anybody sitting in this place? Do you mind if I, is it okay? I mean, it's okay if you don't want to. I don't want to impose or anything like that. Oh, gently, gently. And it's all on the escalator, going up. Or, depending on how you look at it, going down. So, things are easier to stop right there, at the beginning, and that's how you would do it. When someone comes along and you know that there's a little flirtation in the air, there's a little attraction, that you see that he or she is arriving at the same time every time, you make sure that the next time you see him coming, you get the hell out of there. Or you keep saying, yes, in my job, people can often take a shine to you. No, I don't mean you, but they think that they're in with a chance. And of course, it's one of those things that I feel so strongly about, and I never quite understand. This is what you would be saying to him or her. I never quite understand how someone who is approaching someone who is married would think that you would be interested in a dirtbag that would come between the partners in a happy marriage. And he would say, absolutely, I agree. Well, I'll be on my way now. Easiest at the beginning. That lady didn't know about this law. The man called her up, chatted to her, got back in the old groove, and then said, hey, why don't we just have a cup of coffee and just talk? And the coffee led to a meal, and then it led to another one, and then it led to, I can't make it out there, but if you'd like to come round to my place, and so on. So nothing ever happens like the click stop on the light. The light just doesn't suddenly go on. You have to reach up and press the switch and be party to it happening. It's up to you to stop things in the early stages so that you can be loyal to your partner. For me, I found that the easiest way when interacting with the opposite sex was to say and do things which, if it were possible that my wife is standing back there unbeknownst to me, how would she feel about what I was saying and how I was behaving to this lovely lady that happened to be passing through my life? Would she be annoyed? Would she be angry? Would she be hurt? Did what I say belittle in any way my happy marriage with her? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself, and that would modify your behavior so that the thin end of the wedge didn't get any thicker. The escalator stopped. That's what my thoughts are on that, inspired by the 2 letters that we've had very recently. Thank you for looking in. This is a foreigner in the Philippines.